Hello, everyone. We're back with Ken Dombrowski, Executive Life Coach and Master Hypnotist. And today I want to talk about something that I don't think we've often gone into outside of, the realm of narcissism, which we do love to talk about. And that's how a healing journey can actually hurt your relationships.
Well, there's definitely a lot to talk about there. We have this thing called expectations in our subconscious mind. I mean, we have conscious expectations, but the subconscious ones are really, really, they're rooted in there. So when we have an expectation of how someone is going to act or how we're used to this person being a certain way throughout time, and then that changes, it messes up the people, that are observing that. So even though someone's a bad person, they might be filled with negativity and anger and hatred. They can be just an asshole, right? Call it what it is. The people around you are expecting you to be that same person, and when that changes, it actually it disrupts the other people, their subconscious driver of what they're expecting from you, because that tells them how they're going to respond and all that. Now that gets messed up. Now you think, well, wait a minute, isn't that a better thing to stop being a jerk or stop being an asshole? Well, yeah, but people have to get used to it. They have to become your new familiar now.
I think there's also the other side that you can look at, and that's the idea of, as you grow and heal, you kind of realize that certain people no longer, serve you, and not they serve you like servant, but they just don't serve a purpose in your life anymore. And so they don't necessarily have to be a bad person, but they don't really align with your goals, aspirations, values. And so that can be really hard for the other person because, they feel rejected, but it's nothing malicious. You don't have to be a terrible person to not suit somebody anymore.
And there's going to be many conversations about that, and that's a really great one. I personally went through this myself. When I grew up as a kid, my father was a carpenter, and so I spent pretty much every summer of my childhood all the way through my teenage years, every summer working on the job on the construction site with my father as kind of a carpenter's assistant, helper kind of thing. Well, what happened was, spending probably from age 5 up to 18, it's like 12, 13 summers I spent being a carpenter or carpenter's assistant. When I graduated high school in 1986, I was already what you call a full-fledged carpenter, okay? I was making $14 an hour at 18 years old the summer I graduated, while all my friends that I just graduated with were making $4.65 an hour because that was the minimum wage. That difference, me actually being a productive person, doing something real with my life, having a career already, separated me from my high school friends really quick because I made them feel bad about themselves, and I wasn't intentionally doing it. I had to. I was required to spend every summer on a construction site, and then it turned into something really pretty cool. Well, then it got even worse. By the time I turned 19, I started my own construction company. So I was doing small remodels and decks and stuff. And again, my friends, they went from $4.65 an hour to maybe $5.50 an hour. And they were still either living at home or living in some crappy apartment. And I had bought my first house when I was 20 years old. Bought my first house to fix it up and sell it for a profit at 20 years old. They really didn't want to have anything to do with me because they couldn't talk to me at all. Right. About what was going on. So yes, whenever you're making these changes, improving yourself, that's what I'm doing. I'm improving myself. You leave people behind, not because I'm doing it. I wasn't rubbing in my face. Hey, I'm making $14 an hour. Hey, I own my own house. I never have been that kind of person in my life. But simply saying, oh, hey, Ken, where do you live now? Oh, I bought a house and I've been living in this house and fixing it up, and I'll probably be selling it in the next few months for a profit. Right then and there, they just don't want to talk to you anymore. You see it. Then as it kept on going, I became a successful general contractor, making lots of money, owning multiple rental homes. I just started seeing friends just falling off, because they were expecting me to be the same dipshit that I was in high school.
Right. I think that's what it is, too. Everything is pretty situational. A lot of friendships are situational, and they're based on the fact that you guys have, mutual hardships or work in the same atmosphere and blah, blah, blah. That's really what it is. So that's kind of where the problem comes in. So, as someone goes through a program like ours and they're bettering themselves, and you're never asking someone to like get a divorce or stop talking to this person. It may be like lightly suggested that that friend may not be suiting you or whatever it may be, but it's just like as you unlock certain things about yourself, the natural progression is some people have to be left behind.
Well, they do. They say it's lonely at the top, and that's true. It is absolutely true. And, it's so interesting, where we learn stuff in life. There is many people are very, very well familiar, a famous rock band called Kiss. Now, they've been around since the 70s. One of their premium players is the bass player and vocalist Gene Simmons. Mm-hmm. Now, Gene Simmons is a rock legend. He's a rock god, right? He's been rocking for 60 years now or so. So he is married to a supermodel named Shannon Tweeden, I think her name is. So they've been together for 30, 40 years or something like that. Well, they used to have a TV show, their own little reality show. I can't remember what it was called, but just the two of them in their life together. And I happened to just catch a couple episodes of it. And I watched an episode where Shannon Tweeden, this shockingly beautiful woman, sitting on the couch in their own living room, and she's saying, "We are the most boring couple ever. We don't have any friends. We don't go out. We don't do everything. Every night by 7 o'clock, we're on this couch watching TV, just zoning and vegging out." And you would think that a rock legend and his wife, who is a famous model, that they would be out jet setting it all day, all the time, out doing stuff. That's just not true. We think that's what's going on, but the reality of it is their levels of success that they keep on climbing, they're leaving people behind more and more and more to where it's just the two of them. But you know what? Really great that they at least have each other, right?
Well, I think that's also, too, like, most people know that a lot of Hollywood couples struggle in relationships because of the fact that you're doing all of these extracurriculars. So, like, being at home, being boring is why they have each other, because it's a healthy relationship. That's why they've lasted as long as they have. So it's like they chose to care enough about having a healthy relationship and like not caring as much about the Hollywood lifestyle, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's like different things like that are just always going to continue to happen. But I really do think healing for a lot of people can hurt relationships. And also I think we've noticed a lot with people that have come through our office is the people who refuse to let go of those relationships don't see as much healing. So it is kind of necessary. Like, nobody wants to stop having people contacting them and feeling wanted and interesting and whatever it may be. But really the truth is everything's a trade-off. Like, if you want someone to care about you to the extent that that couple cares about each other, or you and my mom care about each other, there's just necessary things that need to fall away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All that absolutely makes perfect sense. When we really look at, when we bring in the term narcissist into it, so we get lots and lots and lots of ladies every year in our office who are in a relationship with a narcissistic man. Now, maybe 50-50. Half of the women come in going, "Oh yeah, no, my husband's a narcissist. Me and my friends and my family talk about it. We all know it." And the other half are like, they're like, "No, really? He can't. No, that's not right." Then, well, everything you've told me, and I pointed out back to them, these are all pretty good illustrations of a narcissist. So you're in a relationship with a narcissistic husband. Well, now the next problem is getting that woman to go through her personal growth journey in our program and get her to where she's can have a mind of clarity of what she needs to do next. And I never tell someone you gotta. No, that's not for me to decide. Mm-hmm. What I do is I lay out your options. You can either stay in the same situation and you're going to feel the same forever. And by the way, our research shows us that the narcissist gets worse and worse in their behavior and their treatment of you as they get older. So it's going to escalate worse. Or you can maybe get a divorce and go do something else. Or there's always three options. Or the third one is, we can work together to fortify you to where you simply understand this is your husband, this is how he treats you, and it's okay. You're okay with it because you want to stay in this relationship, and you can stay in it a lot, let's say, happier. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say happy, but how about happier? So you can either be miserable in the relationship, leave the relationship, or figure out a way to be happy in the relationship. Those are kind of your three options. I'm sure there could be more, but those are the three big ones. So getting women to get over that familiar of being talked to in a certain way, the verbal abuse, the emotional abuse, the gaslighting, control, manipulation, that's their new comfort. That's their familiar and their comfort. Doesn't mean they like it. I have to say this all the time. Just because it's familiar and comfortable to you does not mean you like it or love it or approve of it. It does mean you accept it, however. So that's the big differences.
Well, and like once you get used to something and it is quote unquote comfortable for you, you just like don't really try that hard to get out of those situations. At least most people don't. When I say you, I just mean that kind of like blanket for most individuals. That like I say that about people that I know all the time. I'm like, they're just comfortable. They're so unbelievably comfortable that they don't care enough to leave, because at least you know what to expect every single day. And that's a lot easier than having to figure out what the hell's going on around you every single day and figure out what you need to expect in a new situation. So I think that has a lot to do with it too. And it's funny because we'll see sometimes like someone can be ready for our program and not be ready to let go of certain people or certain things. So like sometimes we'll get an email or a phone call like, yeah, I'm actually getting that divorce now. Anything you could send us would be helpful. Or yeah, I just like want to let you know I did actually end up doing what you said and you were completely right. You know, like it doesn't always have to happen in the process, but like planting the seed really does a lot for some people. And sometimes people just need to hit a limit and they haven't hit it yet. And that's what needs to be done.
Well, you know, what also comes to mind is when we go through that process, especially, again, it's mostly going to be ladies that we help with this, is that they're going to go through points in the process. It's a lengthy process. It's way more than eight sessions, by the way. It's going to take ongoing, where they get to where they don't want to see me because they're tired of these changes. They become too heavy. So you start getting the last minute cancellations and stuff. And I give a little bit of freedom. I understand. They're recalibrating a lot of stuff in their life. And if they can miss a session or two and then still come back, that's a great sign. But when someone misses a session and sometimes you just never hear from them again, they won't respond to our calls or texts, you know that they've kind of shut down and gone a different direction. So I get to the end of these programs with, well, I've helped countless ladies get a divorce. Now, I ask at the end of that all, okay, was during this whole process, we've been seeing each other once a week for 6 months. During this process, how many times did you hate me? Oh my God, I was so mad at you because you were wanting me to do this and you're wanting me to do that. And you're telling me that, and then I would get mad and I'd do the opposite and then I'd pay the price and then I go, shit, Ken was right. And that happens so often. And I'm certainly not trying to pat myself on the back here. I'm just saying this is what we go through in our mind that, oh, well, no, I'm going to do this thing anyway. And then you find out. That's just that simple.
Yeah, it really is. Because, I mean, even when I talk to you, you'll tell me to do something. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And I know for a fact that I'm not going to do that. But then guess what? 2 months later, you're pushed to the point where you have to do that. So you know what I mean? It really, everything will kind of work itself out as long as you're trying to better yourself and you're trying to leave that comfort zone. Maybe not at the rate that he would suggest or prefer for his clients, but it's going to happen naturally if you're actually looking for change. And I think that's really important. And part of that is hurting relationships in order to strengthen others or to find a stronger one, because I think this generation, my generation specifically, the biggest issue is thinking that friends matter more than a life partner. And at the end of the day, I could, but I can't buy a house and start a family and create a long-lasting life with my best friend. I can do that with a partner, like a life partner. It's not the same thing. So things have to be sacrificed to try and get to the end goal. And I think that's kind of missing a little bit right now. Mm-hmm. And understanding that relationships naturally end. So many people try and hold on to these relationships that they have no business being a part of anymore because of length of time. And to me, that's just ridiculous. Like, just because you've known someone for so long or their blood or whatever it is doesn't make them a good person for you, doesn't mean that they deserve a place in your life. Everyone has a tipping point, a stopping point, and we just need to recognize those and choose to move on.
Mm-hmm. All really good points again. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I've covered my points. Have you covered yours?
I think for this one, yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all of that information.
My pleasure.
If you guys would like to learn more, please visit our website. The link will be in the description. Have a great day. Bye now.
Bye-bye.